What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso, joined as always by Connor Rogers, and now also joined by Zack Rosenblatt, host of Flight Plan on the Badlands feed. Thursdays, Mondays, it's all spread throughout. We got the three-man weave on the flagship pod this week. Connor, Zack, how we doing? How we feeling? Let's talk Jets Broncos.
Zack, that's a good-looking polo right there. Let's just start right there.
Yeah,
represent.
Especially made for me, I think.
Yes,
BadlandsTOJ.com. Gear and gear right there in the windows.
Love it. I mean, I'm feeling well rested. I've had some days off. We love a Thursday game for that reason, especially when you have 3 and 11 days. You know, they don't talk about how hard it is on the writers, too. You know,
the mini bye week for the writers.
If I complain about working, I'll get roasted like Kaz does all the time. So I promise I'm very happy.
Listen, we have about, I think, like 6 of their next 8 games are basically night games or super early in the morning. So we'll enjoy the peace while we have it. So Jets Broncos. Jets are 6.5 to 7 point favorites, depending on where you're looking at the line. I think similar to what we saw for New England, similar to what we saw for Tennessee. Connor, I'll start with you. How dangerous of a game is this for the Jets? And are you that much more concerned coming out of how they played against Tampa? Or was it that was Todd Bowles having a standard Todd Bowles letdown? It's good that Denver got that win out of their system. And maybe they're like riding a little high now and the Jets are really catching them at the right time. Basically, how are you feeling comparatively to how you felt about the Tennessee and New England matchups for this Denver one?
I think the perception does change a little bit because Denver looked as bad as you can look the first 2 weeks. And then it did have the classic Todd Bowles feel, though. I have to be honest with you, where I'm like, man, they can't get one thing right in this game right now. And it's such a letdown game. And that was Bowles. You'd get, brought up for a big win and then let down against an absolute stinker the next week. But I saw some good things from Denver where Bo Nix looked a little bit more confident. This is obviously an offense that not only wants to get the ball out quickly, they're dealing with some injuries on the offensive line, an offensive line that played really well in this game against the Bucs. The Bucs have no pass rush at all, which is a massive issue. But they like using Nix's threat of his mobility to kind of open things up. They're going to roll him out a million times. They're going to have him, sometimes cut up field, sometimes get the quick throw off instead of actually running after the rollout. The Jets are a more athletic defense, in my opinion. That I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. They're going to do what they did to the Patriots, but they should be able to neutralize that in some kind of sense because their linebackers fly around. They don't really let a ton of stuff go on the edges. And I think how in command Rodgers looked, specifically how in command he looks against the blitz right now, gives you some confidence that if Surtain takes away Garrett Wilson, okay, well, we have enough proof in the pudding right now. Allen Lazard is a factor this year. Mike Williams is getting better week after week. They throw to both running backs. They're not throwing to Tyler Conklin. So that's what you want against a defense like Denver, that they can Revis Island you in a way where they could take away your best player, but the Jets are no longer a one-dimensional passing game where I think a touchdown favorite's a little rich. I probably would have set this game at 5.5-ish points, but the Jets are home. They're coming off a big week. They got some extra rest, and they should take care of their business in this game, although I don't think Denver is the team that gets run over like everybody, kind of thought after 2 weeks.
Zack, what's the general energy that you got from the team coming out of the New England game? Was there a sense of relief that they were able to win a game that convincingly and that they were that far past sort of the opening night? I wouldn't call it a nightmare because it's not shocking that they lost to San Fran. How they lost was certainly disconcerting, but what is the sense in the locker room right now, getting through these 3 games in 11 days at 2-1, getting this extra rest and getting to stay home? What is the feeling throughout Florham Park right now?
I think the vibes are really high right now is how I would describe it. I like the closest I would say that I've felt this coming out of the locker room is maybe when they beat Aaron Rodgers in 2022. Like, I think that was when the vibes were at the highest point of that season, probably. Yeah, this is different, though, because you just feel like the ceiling for this offense is so much higher. And I think that was the biggest thing come out of the Patriots game. I think everybody kind of knows that the Patriots are probably not very good. You come out of the Titans game maybe a little concerned about some things. Rodgers maybe looking a little hesitant. The defensive line not really getting off blocks, stuff like that. And then they kind of answered the call against a team they needed to answer the call against, which, outside of New York, New Jersey, maybe people are like they're overreacting to a win against a bad team. But like the Jets historically just like don't whoop asses when they're supposed to. And they did. And so that's like, I'm as encouraged as I've been all summer. I was just waiting to see mainly how Aaron looked coming off the injury. Like, you knew he was going to look good in practice. Nobody can hit him. Aaron Rodgers is going to dice you up when nobody can hit him. But the fact that he got out on the move the other day, so I just think seeing Aaron play like that has just like energized this team in a way that, they still feel like there's like another level they can get to. I think they're talking about things the right way. They're not celebrating. The fans, maybe they're celebrating, but I don't think the team is celebrating like they have in the past when they win a big game and all of a sudden it's like they won the Super Bowl and then they get a come down. I think they're approaching this in the right way where they're like, we still left a lot on the field on offense. And this is a team that scored 3 touchdowns in 3 games. And Garrett Wilson has not really done anything. As you mentioned, it's opened things up because they have actually other weapons. Like, I'm higher on the team now than I was before week 1 because I've actually seen some evidence that they could be good if they put together the kind of game plan in particular on offense, like Nathaniel Hackett, Rodgers. If they put together that kind of game plan going forward, they're aggressive out of the gate like that. They threw it like 6 straight times or had 6 straight passing plays, I should say. Like, if they keep that up, I'm going to be very optimistic about this team. We've also seen Hackett revert back to form after having a big week before, so I think we'll see what happens against the Broncos. But I would say the vibes are very high is the short answer to your question.
It's definitely cautious optimism with Hackett, who's been better at the last 6-7 quarters. And the Jets feel particularly dangerous in that spread 4-5 wide package where Rodgers is just getting the ball out quick, spreading it around. He could run around a little bit, so we all hold our breath. They're just so hard to defend. And they're also benefited by how well Breece Hall and Braylon Allen catch the football. And Breece, I think, leads the team in the targets so far. Now, you mentioned Garrett, and Connor, I'll throw this to you. I, as someone who's particularly high in him, I'd say, like himself, I've been generally disappointed with the first 3 games. I feel like there's been some mental errors, particularly against New England, not getting the feet down, the motion penalty where he's moving forward, and then Rodgers missed him down the field, but it would have been called back anyway. They just seem like half a click off from each other. And I do think there's a 10-catch, 210-yard, 2-touchdown game that's going to come. I don't know when it's going to be. Probably not this week going against Surtain. But it's just not quite there yet. There's something missing. I'm blaming it slightly more on Garrett at this point than Rodgers because the field awareness stuff is still not all the way there. I think he's been a little smarter running after the catch, protecting the football. But it just doesn't feel like he's reaching his ceiling yet. So what is going on, and how do you think the Jets could further unlock him from a productivity standpoint?
Well, I think they did a good job, and they got away from it, of course. They opened the game with a rollout, and they throw him the ball, where it was 5 yards. But you get the ball in his hands on the first play of the game that it's clearly so designed to just get him involved. That was a really smart thing they did because they knew not only was Christian Gonzalez going to follow him all game, Christian Gonzalez is a really good young corner. There's also a safety over him all the time. There's some bracket cover. There was a lot thrown his way. So they wanted to get him involved in the game early. And I think that's a really good script to follow. You can run some rub routes. You can move him around. I know Surtain's going to follow him into the slot, but you can still move him around, give him a little bit more space. So I think that's an obvious one that they could do. And I think this goes back to them not playing any of their starters in the preseason, that you're seeing some of the, it was a calculated risk, right? The Jets knew we don't want to play any of our starters in the preseason because they had a lot of joint practices that are intense, as I'm sure Zack could tell you better than us, but also they don't want to deal with any injuries from the preseason. Well, the flip side of that is that timing's going to be off. Some things are going to be off where, listen, Aaron Rodgers didn't play last year. Garrett Wilson, can you imagine the difference going from playing with Zack Wilson, who has no timing and rhythm, Tim Boyle and Trevor Siemian, who, Boyle just really nothing to say, but Trevor Siemian, who's a little bit more of a check down artist. It feels like this is such a jarring difference that I think we need to give Garrett Wilson a little grace here, that he's now playing with one of the most intense quarterbacks in terms of knowing what he wants and what he sees. And he's still a young player. So yeah, I think it's been a slow-ish start, but I also don't think it's necessarily been a bad one because they've been able to capitalize on some other matchups with that. And I think the big week is coming. I would err on the side that it's not this week because I personally think Surtain is the best corner in football. I know some Jets fans listening might say, what about Sauce and Marshawn Lattimore? And Surtain is unbelievable. He put Mike Evans in jail last week. Evans had no answer at all, and that never happens. But after that, I think Garrett Wilson is really going to get going here.
Staying on the offensive side of the ball, Zach, we're going to get our first Olu Fashanu start this week. It looked bad with Morgan Moses initially, and then we actually, for once, got good injury news in Jets land where 2 to 4 weeks, Morgan Moses is a tough SOB, played through a torn pec, I think, last year. How many games do we think he's gone? And let's say Fashanu comes in and plays well, and we expect him to play well. He was good all summer. He was good when he came off the bench. Let's say Fashanu starts 2 games and plays well. Are they going to go back to Moses, or is this, we keep Moses now as the sixth man, and when Tyron Smith gets hurt, then at some point, knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't happen, we shuffle again. How do you think tackle is handled the rest of the way? And do you think they make an addition? I feel like they're going to stay pat and they're fine with Carter Warren and Max Mitchell as the backups, but how does this play out if Olu is just really good the next couple of weeks while Moses gets healthy?
It's a good question. I just wanted to say, to your comment about Tim Boyle, you're talking about Miami Dolphins' potential starting quarterback, Tim Boyle.
That's right.
QB1. Unless they trade for Zach Wilson, which I saw was
they saw the Fail Mary, and they're like, you know what?
We got to have
some of that. We got to have some of that. Yeah, but about Olu, it's a fascinating question because I don't think they thought they would be presented with this dilemma so early. And it's good they gave him reps at right tackle they did late in camp because it didn't seem like they were going to at all. But yeah, I think it depends on like the level of how good he is. Like if he goes out there and he's just utterly dominant, which is possible because he looked really, really good in camp. I think you have a hard time taking him out of the lineup. You have more invested in him than you do Morgan Moses, long-term, short-term. And Morgan Moses is just a veteran. He probably wouldn't, cause a scene about the fact not going back in there. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a play it by ear type situation. If I had to guess, I would say Moses gets his job back. But if Olu's like really, really good, like you keep the best 5 out there. Like I think Morgan, he was pretty good those first 3. You guys probably have dug into the film more than me, but he definitely had some like bad penalties and he gave up a couple sacks. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play. I mean, this is a great problem to have. The Jets have not had a situation where they have 2 good starting tackles. It's like, crap, which one are we going to play? Like that. This is the fruit of the labor of that first round pick. Like it all makes sense now if it didn't before. And we're going to see how Olu does. I think you also have to prepare for the possibility, not to be like negative, that he comes out and he looks like a rookie out there. Like that's very possible as well. I don't think he will because I think he's as, well put together as like a rookie offensive tackle as I've seen. I covered the Giants when Andrew Thomas in his rookie year, and Andrew Thomas was just like not ready for the NFL necessarily yet. And then you've seen he's taken off since then. I think Olu's maybe a little more ready. Weirdly, he had less experience in college, but so I'm really high on him, and I think he's going to be good. But yeah, this is a good couple of tests. Let's say he plays this game and the Vikings game at least. The Vikings have a really interesting defense, and Brian Flores has caused a lot of trouble for a lot of teams already, and he's a rookie tackle, so they'll be attacking him. So I think that will be a good test to see if Olu deserves to like stick in the lineup, I would say.
Before we jump to a first world problem on the defensive side of the ball, reminding everyone, sign up for Underdog, promo code Badlands, deposit match up to $1,000. Check for our weekly higher, lower picks, which will drop before kickoff on Sunday. Probably also drop some stuff before Thursday night football. But sign up for Underdog, promo code Badlands. Get that deposit match going. Defensively, kind of a similar situation, not exactly the same. Jamien Sherwood had a good summer. He's played very well. Some people have been saying that since he's out there, that has been a key reason the defense has changed because they're a little faster at the second level. I don't know if I go that far, but I think he's been good. Mosley will get his job back when he's healthy. It sounds like he almost played Thursday. He is captain. He's the leader of the team. He's going to be out there.